where we introduce choice, or we talk about our choice. The second week we work on it, and the third week we come back and present. So today we just want to kind of dive into some of those options there. I'll see if I can find some other ways that we can talk about choice on some of those days. If you guys have some great things that are working beyond choice boards, let me know, and we can work on those as well. So let's head on into the Canvas course. So really the reason we want to have this kind of choice is to be able to differentiate our instruction for our students. So, you know, it allows us to meet their individual needs and just provide them with ways that they learn best. But I know there are barriers to choice. So let's talk about those. What are some of the things that make providing choice hard? And that can be as a teacher in general, that can be as a venture teacher, that can be as a teacher during COVID. So what are some of our reasons why we struggle with offering choice?
Because the kids don't like making decisions and they just ask me, Miss, what's the easiest one to do?
Definitely. Hear lots of that. Anything else? I mean, it also takes more time up front, right? If we have to come up with enough things to fill, even if you have to come up with 2 assignments, that means you're having to come up with 2 assignments and 2 rubrics and all those sorts of things potentially. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I always struggled with it, is if we're struggling with time, do we really have time to do more than one thing as well? So I think that's the reason why Mr. Meeks wants us to spend time during the week on these, if he's giving you that time to be able to really think through those sorts of things. And hopefully we can come up with some creative ideas to even deal with the Miss, tell me which one's the easiest and the quickest. I know that that's going to be a barrier we always have, but hopefully there's a couple things we talked about in the last session that hopefully at least are worth trying potentially, so we'll see. So we're going to talk about how using choice boards can differentiate instruction and the 4 factors on which choice should be based. So can anybody give me a good definition of differentiation? Or it doesn't even have to be good. It can be bad. I don't care. A definition.
I would just call it meeting your kids where they're at.
Okay, good. So when we're doing that, we want to make sure that we're looking at their readiness, their interest, and their learning preference, or at least that's how we're going to address that when we're talking about choice boards. So another thing that we talked about in the last session that I had today is Mr. Ostrowski made the point that there's times where, you know, especially when he's teaching STAR, they have to learn that piece of knowledge. Like, there isn't a choice there. You need to learn this thing. So sometimes differentiation of content isn't really an option, right? We have to teach this one specific thing to make sure that they can master that on the test or whatever that is. So sometimes this one's not an option. Sometimes it is. So that's one way we can look at it. Looking at the process. So can they produce the same type of thing in 2 different ways? So that they can make it their own. Can they write a paper versus creating a video? And then finally looking at the product they can use. So if you tell them you can create a video, you've got all these different options of how you create that video. So I know we've talked about choice boards before, so I guess, I know you guys are well versed on why choice boards can be effective. You know, it just helps to provide a little framework for what kind of choice you're providing. The ones we're going to, I'll get to that in just a second. So as you're creating choice, you want to be thinking about these 4 little categories here. You want to be thinking about time. How much do I have to invest in this activity as far as the students? Because that is one of the questions we get a lot, is which one takes the least amount of time? Which one can I get done with the fastest? So you don't want to produce 2 different choices, one that takes 5 minutes and one that takes a couple hours, because they're never going to choose the other one, right? Where can they do that? Where they can do the best work? Can that be face-to-face, or is that online? And even right now, we have to think about that more than normal, obviously. But even I was thinking about my daughter the other day had to write and then tell a poem or say a poem, and she had the choice to either do that via Zoom because she's at home still, or she could video herself to turn that in. So even simple things like that where we can provide choice. I remember the first year I was here, there was an activity where they were supposed to present something, and I had some kids that were just, I had one girl that was very had a lot of anxiety issues. So her, especially new to me, that was really hard for her. She just could not bring herself to present to me. But, you know, potentially if I had her do it, offered a different choice as far as recording herself or something like that, maybe we could have gotten there. And then of course there's format. There's all sorts of different ways that we can ask for things from our students. And I'll plug that, you know, the district says that we want to strive for technology whenever possible. We've got lots and lots of options, and especially right now, that's a great way to get our the information back from our students, because we need it to be digital in most cases. And then the final thing we want to look at, but it's going to be harder for us to look at, right, is can this be done in a group? Should it be done in a group? Would the students like to have that option? And, you know, that doesn't mean we can't do it here. It's obviously a little harder, but I mean, I have done groups with students before, and they sometimes like that if you can figure out a way for that to work. So what do you guys think? When you think of those 4 areas of choice, what do you think is the hardest for you to think about implementing?
Socialness.
Socialness. Do you think that's based upon being here at Venture or just in general?
Definitely, I spoke to it from being here at Venture.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else struggle with any of these?
I get some pushback on the technology integration just because the kids are not excited about learning new technology platforms, but.
So they're just saying, Miss, can I write it down on a piece of paper and give it to you type of a thing?
Yeah.
And Ms. Haberly brought up a good point too with our current situation. She was saying there's things that she would like to provide as far as, like, I guess kind of manipulative type things, which is a great choice, but she can't provide that choice when you're talking about somebody that's in home. So that place is difficult right now, especially when we can't be, and even now in person, like, should they be using manipulative type things? I don't know. If you can't sanitize them, we maybe have to take that off the table. So that is something to consider that's different right now, at least. Let's see. Oh, we talked about that already. So we are going to just be looking at different types of choice boards so you can kind of see what those are available. I know, again, you guys have seen these in many ways, but I want to just go over them again. So there's tic-tac-toe. You guys know how to play tic-tac-toe. Those are fun, that they kind of have a little bit of a little more autonomy as far as choosing up, down. You know, they get a lot of choice there as far as which ones they produce. The one thing I do want to say is that, you know, this one has 9 choices. This one has 16. Like, that seems overwhelming sometimes, especially if we're talking about integrating this into every single unit. Choice does not have to be 9 or 16 options. 2 things is a choice, right? So there's still ways you can probably integrate some of these things with fewer choices, or just add some fun to it. So don't be overwhelmed thinking that Mr. Meeks is looking for us to have 16 choices in everything we do. This is another option you can do where you're asking them to choose either a column or a row. This gives you a little more control over what they're getting from you. So you would say, choose 1 from the spelling column, then choose 1 from the numbers, so that you're getting a little more control as far as what kind of content they're taking from it. This could also help you. I mean, you're still going to get the question, which one's the easiest, Miss? But you can, you know, have all the spelling ones take a little bit longer, whereas numbers is pretty quick. So you can play that a little bit more in those situations versus a tic-tac-toe board where they can choose really anything that's on the board. Point requirements. I think this is one that I can see working the best in that kind of scenario that Ms. Beaver brought up, is that when you're looking at these and you tell them they have to, oh, here's the point values. I was looking for them the whole time the last session. If you tell them they have to get up to 100 points, they're going to look at this and say, which one's the easiest? You're going to say, well, these 25-point ones are the easiest, but you're going to have to do 4 of them. Or you can come over here and this one's harder, but you only have to do the 1. So giving them a weight of it, and you could do this in smaller point values, you know, little bitty things that only count for a couple of points until you add up to it. Does anybody see a downfall with this when we're talking about our venture students?
Are we adding up to 100 or to a 70?
Yes, exactly. So I mean, ideally as teachers, we would hope that they're going to want to shoot for 100, but we know that that's probably not everybody's intention, right? So, but you would probably have to tell them, yeah, if you go for this, if you only go for a 75 and you miss anything, you're going to have to do something else to be able to get to that mastery level. So And then restaurant menu. These are just a cutesy way to provide choice. These are fun. I think you can also have a little more control over what kinds of content you're providing, because you're making sure they're getting something from each section. So you can kind of group things a little bit more easily that way. Then there's always games that you can do. Ms. Waldrop, Ms. Smith, I thought of you guys specifically about creating some sort of a fun game to go to get your kids, like, I don't know, can you make Dungeons and Dragons into some sort of choice board? I bet you could. Y'all come up with that, see what you can do. Challenge. Okay, so what is anybody, talk to me about what kinds of, do you see the potential for any sort of choice boards within your content in the future?
I currently have a choice board in my content for each unit. As they progress through the unit, because it's a leveled pre-test, they're assigned a level, and as they progress through the unit, they progress through the levels on the choice board. And so they have each level 1, 2, and 3, they have a choice of activities to demonstrate content mastery for that lesson of content learning.
Are you seeing them get more open to the idea of it as they're progressing along? Or are they still asking you, Miss, which one's easiest?
No, they have definitely progressed. I run into difficulty the first time, and that's just the way I set it up. We had a whole PLC about this. But apart from that, once they've started doing it, it's actually really easy, and it requires very little guidance or intervention from me.
Good. Okay. That brings us hope, hopefully, that it is something that if we stick to it, and because I do see so much value in this. I was telling the last group, I mean, if you were to tell me I could either take a test or write a paper, I will write a paper every day. And I know that may put me in kind of the minority here. Or if you talk to my daughter, she will do a project over doing anything else. And again, that's not everybody's choice, but it's kind of nice when we're provided that kind of choice so that we can show our learning the way we feel the most comfortable. So I love that when we can provide it. Again, it does not have to be in a choice board, but I did want to walk through these with us. So anybody else have anything about choice boards, either seeing how they could fit into your course or how you've used them and been successful or not successful?
I have some in my English 1 class, and it's kind of like 50-50 split. Some like it. Well, some like it, some don't. And, you know, I did one for a poem because poetry is not one of my favorite things. So I thought if I gave them a choice, they like that one. But the one about setting and plot chart, not so much. It's not a big hit in English 1.
And do you know why? Like, do you know what it is that's driving it, that it's making them?
No, not really. You know, it's hard when you're talking through a Remind or through Canvas. So
do you say it's not going well? Are they giving those same sort of pushbacks of like, why do I have to do this, or which ones?
Well, no, they're not doing any of that. It's more like, is there anything I can do besides the choice board for setting?
They want a choice for the choice board?
Yeah, they just want to bypass it totally. Now, the poetry one, they don't mind doing.
What do you think?
But it's the setting one. So I don't know. Maybe they don't like poetry either. I don't know. So
does that one come first or second?
Setting comes first, poetry comes second.
Maybe you already beat them down the first round.
Maybe,
right?
yeah, maybe. I just kept cramming it down their throat. That's how I choose to do it.
Okay.
It's a choice.
Well, I'd be interested. I'll have to go in and look at those and see if I see anything that would tip it off. But, you know, maybe it is, like Catherine said, like getting through it a little bit and having them understand the expectation and that you're going to have them do it. And maybe then they start to also see that it can be, they do like having the ability to choose how they show their learning. I don't know. This is something I told the last group that I may even pin this up to the top or come up with a page that I make for y'all up at the top, because I can never remember where that endorsed apps list is. So this is, if you need help thinking through how can I provide different tools for them for producing their work, you can come here and check out. These kind of links will help you with that. So again, I think this is this could be helpful in lots of ways besides choice too. Just a friendly reminder, if you're having them do any sort of project where they're integrating pieces from other places, to make sure that they're being good digital citizens. So there's some information here about how to do that. And then this page is great if you are ready to start using a choice board in your course. There are some different templates that you can use, so you don't have to start from scratch. You got some links. There's super cutesy ones, and then super, very normal. If you aren't cutesy, that's great. Just put them in there however you want. So finally, I think the other thing Ms. Bannister brought up is that, sometimes she gives projects and then doesn't see the kind of return on them that she wants to, and so then it's almost like it wasn't worth their time in doing it. So I think the answer to that is making sure that we have really strong rubrics when we have any sort of project, but especially if you're going to have a project integrated into a choice board, so that they know exactly what it is that you're looking for, so they have those clear expectations. So let's see. I think, but I mean, what's hard about having a rubric when we're talking about a choice board? Do you have to have it for 9 things, right? Like, that's what I think. Do I have to have a separate rubric for every single thing that I've offered as choice? And this talks about how, if you can think about ways to make it be a more all-encompassing rubric. So this one, for instance, is looking at some sort of a book project. So maybe that this teacher offered them to make a diorama or a poster or a video. So she created the same types of expectations regardless of which that fell into. So she didn't have to create a rubric for each individual one. She came up with something that was all encompassing. So if there's ways that you can do that, that can certainly streamline your process. And I won't go into this one too much because it could take us some time, and I think it may be easier to do if you're ready to play in it in Canvas. But if you haven't done this before, I would really recommend you playing around with rubrics in Canvas, because they can be really helpful. And this takes you through step by step how you do that. So if you haven't done this before, what will end up happening is this will pop up on your speed grader, a box that looks like this, and you can just go through each one. You look at it, is the name on it? Yes, then I click on 2. It doesn't, I give them 1. So you can quickly do that, and it adds up the total for you, so you don't really have to keep up with the grading on your own end. So that makes things really easy when you're grading. The other great thing is that you can save these rubrics, and you can come back in and you can use them over and over again. So if you keep doing similar type projects, you can pull that rubric back out. You don't have to make a new one. Even if you need to change a little bit, you can copy it and edit it to go with that same project. So has anybody really used rubrics in Canvas? A couple people? Anybody love it, hate it? No strong feelings either way?
My heart to build, but I also didn't know that it could do that in SpeedGrader. I've never looked at that.
You said it was kind of hard to build, Catherine?
It felt time consuming the first time I tried to build one. Yeah.
Yeah. Shay's nodding her head. I think that's how I felt too. And I think that, but every time I went to grade something, I was wishing that I had done it. So it is time consuming on the front end, but then I think it saves you some time on the back end. So it's one of those balance, especially if you're looking at something you haven't looked at in a while. In our world, it's a project that hasn't come up in a month or something, then you're not having to remember what it is that you're actually grading on. Yeah, the speed grader option is really nice with being able to click on those things and automatically grade it. I mean, it doesn't automatically grade it for you. You still have to make the call, but let's see. I think we're kind of coming to the end, y'all. We won't even, I mean, that question is, do you feel like we have overcome any of our barriers that we talked about before? I don't know. Does anybody feel any better about providing choice having listened to this? Did I say something that changed your mind? I'm not hearing great things. Hopefully there's nuggets in here that you guys can come and dig through as you start to make those choice pieces into your Canvas course. I left this board in here for you as well. There's some for Seesaw, which obviously doesn't apply to us, but there are 2 videos that you can watch if you want some more information on how to create choice boards within Canvas. And then the last 2 pages on Canvas are 2 little assignment things. We're not going to actually do those right now because this is going to be something you'll be working on over the next couple of weeks. On your Tuesdays is creating that choice within your course and creating a rubric. So we want you to practice with that rubric and practice with getting that choice in there one way or the other, whether that be a choice board or some other sort of way that you would show choice. So anybody have thoughts, questions, concerns? Nothing? We're so quiet today. All right, so hopefully we can, you know, again, if there's things that you know of that have worked well for you as far as choice goes, since we're going to be focusing on this in PLCs, definitely share that with, you know, your department, with the whole group. Send it to me if there's, and you know, Ms. Haberly was also mentioning some things that she's seen out there that she has wanted to look into further but didn't have the time, or she saw that it costs money and so stopped looking into it, that she felt like some of those things could help her with choice. So if you see some of that kind of stuff, if you want me to look into it for you or see if we have the funds, because we do have funds from both departments and the school in general, feel free to send those my way and I don't mind checking them out for y'all. All right, any questions? All right, thanks for listening, y'all. Have a good day. Go vote.
Bye.
Bye.